Welcome to All Right in Sin City, a podcast about writers and writing in the Windsor-Detroit region. Your podcasters today are
Irene Moore Davis, author, educator, and local historian.
Sarah Jarvis, former bookseller, publishing rep, and literary festival chair.
and me, Kim Conklin, Windsor-based writer and filmmaker.
In this episode, we are delighted to welcome students from the University of Windsor's 2026 Publishing Practicum course. Together with some standout Canadian poets, including Rosemary Sullivan, Molly Peacock, Dan MacDonald, and G.A. Grisenthwaite, the students talk about their unique new book of poems and recipes, The Poet's Cookbook, published by Conspiracy Press.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of All Right in Sin City. Today, we will be discussing the upcoming publication, The Poet's Cookbook, the inaugural title from the up-and-coming Windsor-based publishing house, Conspiracy Press. The Poet's Cookbook is an anthology of poetry, prose, and recipes gathered and shared by multiple renowned authors and poets. Today, we will take you on a journey to discover some of the minds behind this anthology. All the food we interact with in life comes with a story. Furthermore, each recipe does as well, and in the case of the Poet's Cookbook, we mean this literally. Today, we're excited to welcome some of the authors featured in the cookbook to speak about their recipes and the thoughts, emotions, and experiences that sit behind them. Please welcome Rosemary Sullivan, her selection chancho en piedra, a traditional Chilean dish, Dan MacDonald, chow chow in a mason jar, Molly Peacock, a pancake ode, and Gord Grisenthwaite, how to save your marriage and ruin your life, Lebanese tabbouleh salad. Join us for individual, fun, and thoughtful discussions.
To start the podcast off, I'd like to ask the question, which came first, the story or the recipe? Rosemary, it seems like you have something to say. Please take it away.
I would say immediately the story. The whole idea of a poet's cookbook is so fascinating because I don't really think of poets as chefs, right? But some of them are. I mean, look at Susan Musgrave's wonderful collection of recipes from the West Coast, and she's out in the sea catching the animals that she's going to tell you how to cook. Just a whole wonderfully, if I may put it this way, eccentric notion of a poet's cookbook fascinated me. What would I learn about all these writers, many of whom I know, when they tell me what their favorite food or favorite recipe is? And I'm a pretty good cook, though I get less and less interested in it the older I get. But I lived in France, and I had a wonderful month living in a French house, and the woman was a wonderful cook. But she would close the door and shut me out whenever she was cooking her mother's secret recipes. So, the wonderful passion for food and cooking that I found in France might have been a subject, but frankly, the idea of chancho en piedra was immediately my first idea because it stayed with me that moment as we were eating chancho in Talca.
Thank you for that answer, Rosemary. I would now like to turn to Molly Peacock and ask her the same question.
Oh, the recipe came first because I knew I had to have a recipe. And I thought, well, let's nail that down. And then I had a recipe, I had a poem, and then I thought, okay, now it's time for the essay, linking these two and investigating pancakes around the world and pancakes throughout history. I learned a lot writing this essay.
Thank you, Molly, for your answer. Now, I want to turn towards Gord Grisenthwaite, and I want to ask you, how does food factor into your writing?
Food plays a very important role in much of my work, even in unhealthy families. Mealtime is about the only time people get together, and it can be a really positive time.
Now, I'm going to turn towards Dan MacDonald, and I want to ask you, how does food affect your work as a radio host? Because as we all know, radio hosting is very different from writing.
For me, food is a luxury to be enjoyed for sure. And I love trying new foods. I love trying new restaurants. I love when I hear a new sandwich shop opened or there's a new pizza place in town. So that's what food is to me. Is just more of a something to kind of enjoy.
Thank you, Dan, for your answer. Molly, it looks like you have something to say.
I really enjoy eating, and food in my life, because I live right next door to the St. Lawrence Market, one of the great food markets in the world, one of the top 15, at least according to National Geographic. And I love the sensuous apprehension of the vegetables, the fruits, the cooking implements, all of the things that are available to me because of my location. And cooking and recipes are like formal poetry. And Pancake Ode has a formal rhyme scheme. It's a short little lyric poem. And it is in some ways like a tiny recipe.
What wonderful thoughts on the relation of food to work. Now, I want to ask if food itself has any other associations within your own minds.
You know, even more than me liking chow chow, it was the way my uncles and aunts talked about it. Like they talked about it with such fondness. I thought, okay, whatever. It looks kind of like green relish. To be perfectly honest, it looks kind of gross. It's green tomato relish. You know what I mean? It's not the most appetizing looking, but it's delicious. But the way they spoke about it was, you could tell they had so many happy memories about it. Like to them, that was home to them. And chow chow, it seems like it's a very Cape Breton thing. Growing up, I had a few friends I went to school with here in Windsor, who were they also had family from Cape Breton, and they used to talk about chow chow too. And I was like, wow, finally, other kids know what this weird green stuff is. So we kind of bonded over that. But same thing. Some of my friends thought it was really gross. It looks weird, but they said my parents love it for whatever reason. So it's something very much tied to home. And that's something my dad and all his brothers and sisters say. They always say, back home, and they're referring to Nova Scotia, particularly Cape Breton, Port Hood. Oh, back home, back home. And I guess if they were here to describe what chow chow tastes like, they would probably say it tastes like back home to them, because it's such an exclusive Cape Breton thing and such a big part of their upbringing. They canned a lot of food, I think, back then, and they did what they could to kind of feed a huge family, and chow chow was a big part of that. So you could tell they liked the taste, but there was more connecting them than just the taste. There was a whole lot of memory and nostalgia there with that food.
Thank you for the insight, Dan. Rosemary, I feel like you have a comment to make.
You know, I mean, food goes back to childhood, right? And so those Sunday dinners, when my mother would cook a roast, and she had no idea what garlic was. I mean, this was an Irish family, right? So it was a very, very good roast, but it wasn't particularly well seasoned. But we all sit around the table. There was no alcohol actually at the table. My father was not abstemious when it came to alcohol, but being Irish, those memories of family around the table. So when one prepares a roast, or my brother prepares a chicken dinner, a roast chicken dinner, it brings me back to my mother. I lost her in 2015. I use her in so many of my projects in my mind. She may not be in the book, but she's always inspiring me because I loved her deeply. So food and family, food and ceremony, those are all what are part of your psyche, I think.
Thank you for sharing your insights, Rosemary. Now, to end us off, I want to ask this question to everyone at the table. What advice do you have for anybody who is going to be making your respective recipes? Molly, let's start with you.
Oh, I put the brands of the things that I use, and I credit the Globe and Mail because that's where the original recipe was from, which I've altered over time. And I feel that the measurements are precise. I think if you follow that recipe, you're going to be just fine.
What advice do you have, Dan?
Ooh, I would say follow the recipe as closely as you can. That's my grandma's recipe, and she knew what she was doing. And follow the recipe and give it a try. And then if you like it or you think, I could make it better and make it your own. I always like to go by, okay, what is the recipe? I don't want to get it wrong and screw it up because I will screw it up. When I do try cooking, I'm very a stickler. But if I try it again, I will say, it wasn't spicy enough last time. It needed more salt. It needed more of this. Next time I do it like this, make it your own and have fun with it. I think sometimes we maybe take cooking too seriously. And like I said, I forget where I heard the quote, but I heard someone say cooking is alchemy. And, have fun with it. Try stuff. That's the big one. Don't be picky. Give something a try, even if it looks kind of gross. And I won't lie. Chow chow looks kind of gross. I'm not going to say what me and my sister used to say it looked like back in the day, but you saw it. You know what it looks like. It's not the most appetizing, but looks can be deceiving. You know what I mean? And give it a try. Say you did, and think about how it makes you feel, I guess. But never be afraid of trying something new, especially if it's something steeped in tradition.
What advice do you have for anyone making tabbouleh salad, Gord?
Give yourself time, especially if you're going to chop the parsley and dice the tomatoes yourself. And if you're not adept with knives, which I am, it can take a while. But if you're cooking for two, it might go a little quicker than if you're going to make the salad tabbouleh for your entire party, 15 or 20, whatever people.
Now, Rosemary, please end our podcast off with your piece of advice for anyone making chancho in Pietro.
It is the easiest thing in the world to make. First criterion, however, is you want to have good quality tomatoes. And oddly enough, the little kind of long round, not round tomatoes, but the long shaped tomatoes, which are the least expensive in the off season, are the best tomatoes for chancho and piedra. What the Chileans do is they peel the chancho, but that's too much work for a North American. You just put your chancho into a blender, and you get it. You don't want to overblend it. You want to have some substance, and then you put your clove of garlic in, or two. Then you chop up your coriander, but you want to chop it up very fine. Large pieces of coriander don't work in chancho. It should be chopped fine. Put your oil in, and there you've got it. And you'll, like many people who are used to a recipe, I don't have measurements for you. Just put in what seems to be right in terms of the oil. I hope people who make it enjoy it.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's episode. A special thank you to our guests as well for their contribution and for allowing us to pick their brains. Conspiracy Press was established in 2025 in Windsor, Ontario, by local author Dr. Andre Narbonne. Their goal is to produce engaging, high-quality books you can't put down. You can find them at their website, www.conspiracypress.ca. The Poets Cookbook, featuring the works of our guests, as well as many more renowned Canadian authors, is currently available for pre-order and will launch April 2nd of this year, 2026.
Thanks for joining us. Look for more episodes of All Right in Sin City wherever you listen to podcasts, or check out our website, allrightinsincity.com. For information and announcements of new podcasts, sign up to our email list or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.